We don't know what we don't know. And this seems to be especially true when it comes to the end of life, when it comes to our mortality, when it comes to navigating dying, death, and grief. The first time I found this to be particularly present and relevant was when my dear Aunt Nancy was dying. I was in my 20s and I really had no frame of reference for what to expect. When my cousin told me I should come quickly, I did. As quickly as I could have, I left work and my coworkers sent me off with hugs and well wishes. And I drove a couple hours to my hometown. When I arrived there and entered the room, what I noticed was how very painful it all felt. It was painful because we knew that the end was near and that we would have to say our farewell to this person that was so dearly loved by so many people. It was also painful because it was awkward. We didn't know what to do with this time. We didn't know what to do with ourselves. And we really had no one available to us to guide us through. So it was awkward at best. On occasion, my aunt would open her eyes, she would look around, she would see a lot of friends and family, and she would say, what's going on? What are you guys doing here? And she would ask us questions and we wouldn't know what to say or how to answer. And then she would fall back into sleep. We were just sort of standing around, I guess, waiting and just not knowing. After a while, the crowd dispersed and there were only a handful of us left. At that point, I followed my heart and I asked my uncle and my cousins if I could have some time with my aunt. And they said yes, and before I had left home to drive down, I had stopped to pack a couple things, not knowing how many nights I might be away. And I also grabbed a bear that my aunt had given me, a stuffed bear, and I wrote a quick note for her. And I wasn't sure why, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do with this, if anything. It just felt like something I needed to do, so I did it. And when my uncle and cousins said I could have some time with her, I very carefully crawled up into her hospital bed and I cuddled up next to her, and I had already put that bear in her hands because that felt like where it needed to be. And so I took the note that I had written, which I had rolled up and I had tucked into the bear's arms. I took out that note, I unfurled it, and I read the note aloud to her. And it was very simple. It was a message of gratitude and love. It was me expressing how much she had meant to me and some of my favorite memories and just how much I loved her. And at that point, my aunt was only a couple hours away from death, and she didn't have the energy any longer to open her eyes, but she managed to whisper, "I love you," to me. And so then I went to go get the rest of the family, and I thanked them for that time I got to have with her. And I returned the following morning to hear the news that she had died overnight. And what I know now, looking back, which I didn't know then, was just how meaningful that goodbye would be, that I could carry with me from then on out, even until today, and how much comfort it brought me in the moment to share that time with my aunt, to cuddle up next to her, to express my love, and then during my time of grief as well, because what I never had to deal with was feeling like there were words left unsaid, feeling like I wish that had gone differently. It was simple, it was unplanned, I followed my heart, I was led by instinct, and it unfolded and evolved in its own way, and it was perfect and it was beautiful. And I'm so very grateful that I had the opportunity to do that before she died. And it really helped provide solace to me even as I continue to grieve the absence of her presence. So that, almost decades ago now, planted a seed and created a foundation for me and started to build my frame of reference, my knowledge, my understanding about dying, what it might look like, what to anticipate, and what to do with myself during that time period. And since then, I've been more and more motivated to learn, to grow, and to spend time within that space, both as a loved one, friend, family member, neighbor, and as a doula and death literacy educator and advocate. And my most earnest hope is that through these efforts, through writing books, through having the death literacy specialist training program, through gathering up people within my community and beyond, that we can all increase our language around death and dying and grief, and our tools, our approaches, our awareness, and create a little bit more confidence, a little bit more courage, and an abundant amount of compassion to be able to step into these realms of great mystery, of great emotion, and of endless complexity